some Caitlin Clark content. So it looked like Team USA wraps up the weekend with a lot of footage coming out. Now, the numbers, I was very interested to see how everybody was going to take the Caitlin Clark returning back to the basketball court. And I'm about 50-50 sold on the algorithm being right where it need to be. The first day, we seen numbers go up and down. Second day, numbers go up and down. Third day, they kind of plummet, which means to tell me a lot of people still are interested, but there is also a lot of people that ain't interested in Caitlin Clark or the women's basketball.
And that right there is the reality check nobody in the WNBA wants to hear. Team USA wrapped their first camp of the year in Raleigh, North Carolina this past weekend, and while Caitlin Clark was back on the court for the first time since her ankle injury, the numbers tell a completely different story than the hype machine wants you to believe. Day 1, views spiked. Day 2, they fluctuated. Day 3, they crashed. And that pattern should terrify everyone invested in this league's future. Because here's what's actually happening. The algorithm that drove the WNBA's record-breaking 2024 season is cooling off fast, and with CBA negotiations stalled and a potential lockout looming, the league is running out of time to capitalize on the Caitlin Clark momentum before it evaporates completely.
We don't have any updates on the CBA negotiations. From my understanding, they put forth another proposal for the WNBA players and the owners, but the players did not accept the new proposal. Now, we know January 6th was that 6-week timeline that we got before we either see another extension or another shutdown. Now, with that being said, I'm here to tell you, if we do not have a CBA signed by March or April, we going to be in trouble. We going to be in some serious trouble with the WNBA coming back for the 2026 season.
January 6th, that's the deadline. 6 weeks from now, the WNBA Players Association and the league owners either reach a deal or we're looking at an extension or a full shutdown. And according to sources close to the negotiations, the players already rejected the latest proposal from ownership. No counter proposal has been accepted. No framework has been agreed upon. Just silence. Now here's why this matters more than any other CBA negotiation in WNBA history. The league just came off its most successful season ever, driven almost entirely by one player. Caitlin Clark set the single-season assist record with 30-37. She broke the rookie scoring record with 7.9 points. She became the first rookie to record a triple-double. She was named to the All-WNBA first team, only the 5th rookie ever to earn that honor and the first since 2009. The Indiana Fever went from a lottery team to a playoff contender overnight, but that success created a ticking clock. If there's no season in 2026, that momentum dies. The algorithm moves on. The casual fans who discovered women's basketball because of Clark will find something else to watch, and the WNBA goes back to being a niche product that struggles to fill arenas.
And as of right now, the future do not look good, guys. I just got to keep it real. Now, I know it's a lot of old guard fans and stuff like that that'll argue with me that it does. I'm looking at numbers y'all don't see. And the numbers don't show the WNBA doing good for the 2026 season. That's why we got to track this thing. That's why we got to hype Caitlin up. And that's why we got to keep this thing going. Because if not, man, this was a one-hit.
Unrivaled was supposed to be the safety net. The 3-on-3 league launched in January 2025 with massive hype, positioning itself as the place to watch WNBA stars during the offseason. But the numbers from their first season were underwhelming. Viewership didn't come close to matching WNBA regular season games. Social media engagement was a fraction of what Clark generated during the playoffs. And that's the problem. If Unrivaled, with all its marketing budget and star power, couldn't maintain interest in women's basketball without the WNBA infrastructure, what makes anyone think the league can survive a lockout? The answer is, it can't. Not without destroying everything the 2024 season built.
Out about Caitlin Clark today. Shout out to off-season Caitlin Clark sources. Off-season Caitlin Clark sources be having the sources. They stated Caitlin Clark profile headshot has been updated on Team USA. So this is the new and improved looking Caitlin Clark. Now, as y'all can see here from this picture, judging by her shoulders, she lost a lot of weight. but this is the Caitlin we want to see. See, this is the Caitlin that shoot logo threes. And judging off the footage that came out this weekend, there was a lot of logo threes coming out. Now, something else we're going to talk about is Annie Constable being the first reporter to do a sit-down interview and talk about what she's seen when she was granted access to see Caitlin Clark.
So let's talk about what actually happened in Raleigh. Team USA Basketball held their first senior national team camp of the year, bringing in the next generation of players to develop alongside the established veterans. Caitlin Clark was there, coming off that ankle injury she suffered in the WNBA playoffs. According to Indy Star reporter Chloe Peterson, who was granted access to the camp, this was the first time Clark had operated at full health since the injury, and the reviews were mixed. Her shot, that logo three-pointer that made her famous, was still there. Her court vision, her passing ability, all of it looked sharp, but her defensive struggles, the same weaknesses that plagued her rookie season, were still obvious. Peterson specifically mentioned watching Clark defend Kelsey Plum and noted it was telling that those defensive lapses hadn't improved yet. But here's the interesting part. Peterson also talked about watching Clark and Paige Buckers, the UConn star who's entering the WNBA draft this year, go head-to-head, and her takeaway wasn't about who won those matchups. It was about evaluating how these two players are going to operate together in the future, because that's what this camp was actually about. Not cuts, not roster decisions, development, building chemistry, preparing for the 2026 World Cup and the 2028 Olympics.
Gosh, Caitlin Clark, like, I just love reading her stats, bro, because it truly reminds me how legendary Caitlin Clark is, bro. It truly does. Now, moving on to something else. Now, Annie Constable sat down with the Indy Star yesterday, and I didn't watch this whole thing. I ain't gonna lie to you, but I would have thought this did better, bro. I would have thought this interview right here did good. You know, I truly would have thought, and for this interview not to have 1,000 views is crazy work. So me being the nice guy that I am, I'm going to hype up y'all interview, Chloe. See, I don't want any smoke or nothing like that. I want to see everybody win.
And then Team USA did something that sent Clark fans into overdrive. They updated her profile on the official website, new headshot, updated bio. And in that bio, they laid out every accomplishment from her rookie season, the assist record, the scoring record, the All-WNBA first team selection, the Rookie of the Year award. All of it documented in her official Team USA profile. Now on the surface, this seems like standard administrative work. Update the photos, refresh the bios, keep the website current. But the timing is what matters. Team USA updated Clark's profile immediately after the Raleigh camp, right as the WNBA is facing its biggest crisis in years. It's a signal, a reminder to fans, to sponsors, to media partners, that Caitlin Clark is the face of USA Basketball's future. And by extension, the face of the WNBA's future. Because if the CBA negotiations fall apart and there's no 2026 season, Team USA is the only place fans will be able to watch Clark play competitive basketball. And that profile update is USA Basketball, making sure everyone knows they've got the most valuable asset in women's basketball, locked in.
Now, this is the Indy Star. They're going to Hank there, Annie Constable, and Chloe. Now, this video is sitting at 452 views. My goodness. Now, Chloe Peterson, like I stated, she is the first. Hold on, y'all didn't see none of that. She is the first WNBA reporter to actually come out and speak about what she.
But let's get back to the elephant in the room, the viewership drop. Because this is where the data gets uncomfortable for everyone trying to sell the narrative that women's basketball has arrived as a mainstream sport. The first day of Team USA camp content dropped. Social media engagement was strong. Clips of Clark hitting deep threes got hundreds of thousands of views. Highlights of her passing got shared across platforms. The algorithm was working. Day 2, the numbers stayed relatively stable. Still good engagement. Still decent reach. But day 3, everything fell off a cliff. Views dropped significantly. Engagement plummeted. The content was basically identical to the first 2 days. Same quality, same type of highlights. But the audience disappeared.
You guys can watch the whole interview. It's damn near 2 hours long. Let's listen to this part about Caitlin Clark. Let's roll it.
Years to come, but we're in the early stages of seeing that shift. And that is I think, exciting, because one thing you hear about Team USA and its ability to uphold that winning standard is its development of players. And so seeing this group.
And that pattern reveals the truth about the Caitlin Clark phenomenon that nobody wants to acknowledge. A significant portion of her fan base is casual. They're not die-hard women's basketball fans who will watch every game, every practice, every piece of content. They're interested in Caitlin Clark specifically, and even then, only when there's something new or significant happening. A regular season game where she drops 30 points and 12 assists. They'll watch. A playoff game with championship implications. They'll tune in, but a practice session at a Team USA camp in January? That's where the interest drops off. And if the WNBA goes into a lockout and there are no games for an extended period, those casual fans aren't coming back. The algorithm will have moved on. Their attention will be captured by whatever the next viral sports story is. This is why the CBA negotiations are so critical. The WNBA has a narrow window to convert Caitlin Clark's popularity into sustainable growth for the entire league. That means getting a deal done, getting the 2026 season scheduled, and making sure there's no gap in content that allows the momentum to die.
Returning, just what did you see from her play? You know, did she impress? I know Cara Lawson talked highly of her, Sue Bird as well. Just like, what did you see from Caitlin in USA camp being healthy?
Still there. That was one of my leads, was just, you know, that shot of hers that we're also familiar with, very much still there. Her speed was coming back, which I thought stood out. Obviously, her timing on passing, that still was impressive. I think defensively, which anyone I think who watches Caitlin's game knows that's an area that needs to improve. And so watching her against Kelsey Plum was funny, just because again, this.
Now let's talk about what Chloe Peterson actually observed at that camp, because her interview with the Indy Star is the most detailed first-hand account we have from Raleigh, and it paints a picture that's both encouraging and concerning for Clark's development. The encouraging part, her offensive skills are still elite. The shot that made her famous at Iowa, those 30-foot pull-ups that defied logic, they're still falling. Her speed is coming back after the ankle injury. Her passing vision, her ability to thread the needle through traffic and find open teammates, that's still there. Peterson specifically mentioned being impressed by Clark's timing on passes, her ability to anticipate where players would be before they even made their cuts. The concerning part, defense. It's still a glaring weakness, and watching her go up against Kelsey Plum, one of the fastest and most skilled guards in the WNBA, made it obvious that this is an area that needs serious work. Now, to be fair, Clark acknowledged this herself. She admitted after the camp that even though she feels like she's at 100% physically, there's still rust to shake off, still timing to get back, still adjustments to make. But here's the thing about defense at the professional level. It's not just about effort or athleticism. It's about anticipation, positioning, understanding offensive schemes well enough to disrupt them before they develop. And that takes time, that takes reps, that takes coaching, all things that require a functioning league with a regular season schedule. So here's where we are. Caitlin Clark is back on the court, looking mostly healthy, still displaying the offensive skills that made her the most exciting player in women's basketball. Team USA has officially updated her profile, cementing her status as the face of their program going forward. The Raleigh camp showed she can compete at the highest level, even if there are still areas of her game that need development. But none of that matters if there's no WNBA season in 2026, because everything we just talked about, all the momentum, all the growth, all the new fans, it all depends on continuity, on giving people a reason to stay invested, on converting casual interest into long-term fandom. And right now, with CBA negotiations stalled and a January 6th deadline looming, that continuity is in serious jeopardy. The players want a bigger share of revenue, which is reasonable given the league just had its most profitable season ever. The owners want to maintain financial flexibility, which is reasonable given that one superstar drove most of that growth, and there's no guarantee it continues. Both sides have legitimate concerns, but if they can't find common ground soon, they're going to kill the golden goose. Think about what a lockout would actually look like. No training camps in April. No preseason games in May, no regular season tipping off in June, just silence, just uncertainty, just a void where the WNBA used to be. And in that void, the algorithm moves on. The casual fans who discovered Caitlin Clark during March Madness 2024 and followed her to the WNBA find something else to watch. The sponsors who poured money into the league during the record-breaking season start questioning whether it was a one-year fluke. The media partners who gave the WNBA unprecedented coverage start scaling back their commitments. That's the nightmare scenario. And it's not hypothetical, it's a real possibility if the CBA talks don't accelerate dramatically in the next 6 weeks. Now let's talk about what the league should be doing right now. First, they need to be transparent with fans about the negotiations. Not specific dollar amounts or contract terms, but general updates on where things stand. Are the two sides close? Are there major sticking points? Is there optimism or are we headed for a shutdown? Fans deserve to know, especially fans who just discovered the league and don't understand how CBA negotiations work. Second, they need to be leveraging Caitlin Clark's popularity to build pressure for a deal. She's the most valuable asset in the league right now. Her jersey sales, her ticket sales, her television ratings, they all dwarf everyone else. And while that creates some uncomfortable dynamics within the league, it's also leverage. If Clark came out publicly and said she wants a deal done so she can get back on the court, that would move the needle. It would create public pressure on both sides to compromise. Third, they need to have a backup plan for content. If there is a lockout, how do you keep fans engaged? Do you lean into Team USA content? Do you promote Unrivaled more aggressively? Do you create documentary content about the CBA negotiations themselves? You can't just go dark for 6 months and expect people to be waiting when you come back. The algorithm doesn't work that way. And fourth, they need to be realistic about what the 2024 season actually proved. Yes, the ratings were up. Yes, attendance was up. Yes, merchandise sales were up, but almost all of that growth was concentrated around one player and one team. The Indiana Fever's games drew massive audiences. Caitlin Clark's games drew massive audiences. But games without her, those numbers looked a lot like previous seasons. That's not sustainable growth. That's not a rising tide lifting all boats. That's one superstar carrying an entire league on her back. Which means the WNBA has two choices. They can recognize that reality and build their entire strategy around maximizing Caitlin Clark's prime years, making sure she has the support, the teammates, the competition she needs to stay dominant and keep fans engaged. Or they can pretend that the growth was evenly distributed, that all teams benefited equally, that the league is now mainstream regardless of who's playing. And if they choose the second option, they're going to be very disappointed when the 2026 ratings come in. Because here's the uncomfortable truth that the viewership data from Team USA camp confirms. A lot of people are interested in Caitlin Clark. A smaller but still significant number of people are interested in women's basketball generally. But the overlap between those two groups isn't as big as the league wants to believe. There are fans who will watch Clark play and tune out when she's not on the court. There are fans who will watch the Fever and ignore other teams. There are fans who will engage with highlights on social media, but won't sit through full games. And that's okay. That's how sports fandom works. Not everyone has to be a die-hard. Casual fans are valuable too. But you have to understand who your audience is and what they actually want. And right now, what they want is Caitlin Clark playing basketball at the highest level. Everything else is secondary, so the question becomes, can the WNBA deliver that? Can they get a CBA deal done in time to have a 2026? Can they build a schedule that maximizes Clark's exposure without burning her out? Can they create compelling storylines around other players and teams so the league isn't completely dependent on one person? Can they convert the casual fans who discovered the sport in 2024 into long-term supporters who will stick around even when Clark eventually retires? Those are the questions that will determine whether the WNBA's breakthrough 2024 season was the beginning of something sustainable or just a temporary spike driven by one generational talent. And we're about to find out the answer, because if there's no deal by March or April, if training camps get delayed or canceled, if the 2026 season is in jeopardy, then all the momentum dies. The algorithm moves on, the casual fans disappear, and the WNBA goes back to being what it was before Caitlin Clark arrived. A niche product with a small but dedicated fan base, struggling to break through to the mainstream. That's the stakes. That's what's actually on the line in these CBA negotiations. Not just player salaries or revenue sharing percentages. The entire future of the league. The entire trajectory of women's basketball. Everything that was built in 2024 could disappear in 2026 if the two sides can't find common ground. So where do you stand on this? Do you think the WNBA can survive a lockout, or would it kill all the momentum they built? Do you think Caitlin Clark's popularity is sustainable long-term, or was 2024 a one-time spike? And most importantly, if you were running the league right now, what would you do differently to make sure this CBA deal gets done? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this conversation is just getting started. And if you want to stay updated on every development in these negotiations, hit that subscribe button. We're tracking this story every single day until there's a resolution, because the future of the WNBA depends on what happens in the next 6 weeks.